This is Goals with Soul, the podcast for visionary coaches and entrepreneurs, building your business with inspired action. In alignment with your mission and authentic message, so you can create impact for your soul clients and feel lit up every day. I'm your host, Jo Ingram, married mum of 3 daughters from London and a former ad agency director turned business coach and strategist. In Goals with Soul, we blend revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategies with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. If you're looking to build your business with less efforting and more ease, this is the podcast for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Goals with Soul. I'm Joanna Ingram, and today I'm going to be sharing an interview with Bacher, which is absolutely not to be missed. But before we dive into that, I want to welcome you back to Goals with Soul here in 2025. Now, I didn't hit it hard in January. You didn't get an episode on the 2nd of January. And I kind of was going to say for that, I apologize, but I am unapologetic. Because the reality is that we don't all have to be full 100% energy in January just because that's what Instagram tells us to do, right? That whole New Year, New Me vibe isn't necessarily something that all of us have to get behind. And that doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. You know, usually January sneaks up on me with this sort of strange energy, half buzzing with fresh start optimism and half weighed down by that heaviness of getting back to normal. But this January has been really, really different. The teachers at my twin school have striked for 7 days in January. I'm not going to go into the depth and the reasons why, but honestly, I mean, you could picture my face of horror. It's like we've just come off the back of the Christmas holidays. The kids had 2 weeks off. Moving into January, I've got all these big visions, these big things that I really want to get moving, some projects I want to get underway in my business. And then boom, just like that, the teachers are now striking. So the kids are at home. This week, the week that I'm recording this, the kids have only gone to school 2 days in the week, and they're only going to school 2 days next week as well. So days that were supposed to be spent diving back into work have instead been filled with unexpected chaos, including impromptu highlighting, hair sessions, sibling squabbles, far too much screen time for the kids and lying in bed, but also just realizing how many hats I wear in a single day. Now, in the past, I would have found this really frustrating, or more frustrating than I have, because January is always supposed to be about doing, setting the big goals, getting ahead. But to be honest, I've never really liked the pressure. So this time I've let myself take the pressure off. And instead of feeling like I had to push through and overachieve, I've lent into the extra family time, the slower mornings, the chance to connect with my why, right? Which is having the business. So when I have to flex, or I get the opportunity to flex and to be doing something different, supporting my kids in a different way, I'm able to. And I think that's what I'm working towards. Perhaps you are too. It's not just the growth in business, it's freedom, it's flexibility. It's time to savor those fleeting moments before the kids are all grown up. My twin daughters are turning 14 in January. It's like 14. My eldest daughter, now away at university, turns 21 in a couple of weeks' time. It's like, wow, the years have moved so fast. And I also realize the way we start the year often mirrors how we show up in our business. It's easy to feel that every month has to be about grinding harder, achieving faster, or reaching the big milestone. But I've seen time and time again that the best, most transformative growth comes from alignment, not overachieving. And alignment, let me tell you, for me and the majority of people I work with, it's literally this. Is my messaging speaking to the clients who will energize me, not draining me? Are my offers designed to fit my goals for freedom and ease, or am I overcomplicating things and over-delivering? And I mean, at its fundamental point, am I clear on who I want to work with and why? And this is the essence of my zone of genius. When you take your time to get these things right, everything flows more effortlessly. You stop chasing the clients and start attracting them. You stop feeling like you're spinning your wheels and you start feeling truly in charge of your business. And if this resonates, I would love to help you align your messaging and offers with freedom, flexibility, and the life focus that you're working towards. My 4-week messaging intensive is designed to uncover what truly matters to you. So we'll refine your messaging to attract high value clients who energize and inspire you, and design offers to fit the vision that you have for your future. Because when your business is aligned with your life, the chaos doesn't feel so overwhelming. It feels purposeful. And if this feels like what you might be looking for, you're just maybe curious about how this could work for you or your business, simply drop into the show notes, click on the link, and send me a message to either learn more or to have a no obligation chat. And if something that's been on your mind in 2024 is scaling, and particularly scaling your online course business, you are in the right place today. Keep listening, because Caitlin Bacher is the CEO of Scale with Success. She's dedicated to teaching coaches and course creators how to turn their online course into a 7-figure business without launching. Her company has rapidly grown to over $11 million in revenue over the last few years, with no signs of slowing down. Caitlin believes there's more than one right way to build a business, and that if launching isn't your cup of tea, you don't have to do it. She's learned the lesson the hard way after years of being trapped on the launch roller coaster, resulting in nothing but inconsistent revenue and sleepless nights, wondering where her next sale would be coming from. So Caitlin pivoted from launching to selling her course on autopilot. She unlocked the benefits of consistent revenue and got the traction that her business needed. She now teaches this method to course creators all over the world and is sharing her tips and insights on Goals with Soul today. Let's dive in. Welcome to Goals with Soul, Caitlin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited for you to be here, because I've got to admit, a little bit of fangirl, but I have seen you pop up on my Facebook feed more than a few times. So I was really familiar with both your name and face when we started talking about you coming onto the show. And most of all, aside from being, just a little fanny, I'm particularly curious about your method, about your work, because some of the things that you talk about, I know, are so spot on for people in our industry and who are looking for these solutions. But before we dive in, please do just tell us a bit about yourself, like how you got to a place. As I said in the intro, I think your business is doing 11 million now in revenue. And that's not something everyone can claim. And of course, within this industry, we do put people on a pedestal, particularly connected to revenue, and want to know how. What's it all about? So what was the journey, and what got you
Yeah.
to that place?
So I, like a lot of people, I started out with kind of like a side hustle, or a freelancing. And I was freelancing as a social media manager. So I was the person who would go in and create content and schedule that content for other businesses. So I wasn't focused on growing my own social media following. I was primarily getting clients through cold calling and that kind of thing. And so I did that for a while. And over time, I kind of had my own method, right? My own way of doing things. And so I thought it would be kind of fun, instead of doing the posting for someone, to do more of the consulting strategy side, and then they could hire someone else to implement it for them. And after I was doing that strategy, the consulting strategy for a while, then it got to a point where I just felt like I was literally saying the exact same thing on every single call. And I thought, you know what, this would be really cool to put into an online course. And so the very first course I ever created was all about social media marketing. Um, and and over time, as I was selling that social media marketing course, I was experimenting with my own kind of marketing, and I ended up creating different courses after that related to Instagram. I had another one that was related to Facebook groups. And as I was selling those courses, I made the decision that launching was just not for me. I wasn't going to do it anymore. And I kind of developed my own method of being able to move to an evergreen model where my course was always selling. And after I did that for a while, and I specifically was doing that with the Facebook groups course, after I did that for a while, I thought, you know what, this would be really cool to teach other people. And so I've been teaching that this particular program for, I think it's 7, 8 years now. And it's been just a lot of fun.
And this is specifically teaching others how to sell courses. I mean, in
Yes,
simple terms.
yes,
And it is
exactly.
such a tricky thing to get right. But that's true of all of the different business models in this industry. It's like there's
Yes.
people who are successful in every possible way. But for many people, and the vast majority, actually being successful in any of those is really
Hmm.
tricky. And I see so many people cycling through the different models, dipping their toe. I made a course, it didn't sell. I did this
Yes.
high ticket program. I only got one client. I did a launch. I hated it, cycling through. And it's always so inspiring to find somebody that has found what we like to call like the secret sauce, the magic ingredient,
Mhm.
and actually make something not just work for themselves, but for all of those that they're now teaching, which like all kudos to you. But I was like reading your website this morning, doing my due diligence as I do and research my guests. And I saw a story that really resonated with me, a story where you forgot to pick up your daughter because you were knee deep, or rather neck deep, in launch activities. Like
Yes.
what happened there?
So I was like most course creators, and I've been told over and over again that the best way to grow your course is by launching, right? Doing these big fancy launches. And I remember one time in particular, I was, get had been preparing for this one big fancy launch for months and months. And I got a phone call, and I picked up, I saw it was the school calling, because when you pick up your phone, you can see like the name. And so I saw it was a school calling, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So it turns out that it was an early dismissal day for my daughter. And even though I knew that, even though I even had it on my calendar, I was so heads down focused preparing for that launch, I completely spaced it out. And at the time, she was only in kindergarten. Now, right now she's 12. If I was late to pick her up, like no big deal. Right. But at the time she was in kindergarten, and I remember, I went to go pick her up. She ran towards me, like the tears were there. She was so upset, and she said, you forgot all about me. And the truth is, I did. I completely spaced it out. And I've always, I grew up with the value that, family comes first. And I had kind of a moment where I was like, you know what? I'm not living my life aligned with the values that I say that I have. Right. And of course, in that moment, of course, I had things flash like, I'm going to give it, like, I'm ready to throw it all away. I'm ready to give it all up. Of course, like the emotions talking. And it wasn't until I met another course creator. He created a course that was all about decluttering your home, right? And so he wasn't teaching how to make money or anything like that. I know that's a common question some people have. He was teaching all about home organization, how to declutter your home, and he was making over $300,000 per month from selling that course with an evergreen model. And at the time, it really opened my eyes, because I had never, ever heard about someone doing that before. Like, I didn't even know that was an option, right? Like the way my algorithm was set up, the podcast I was listening to, everything was launch, launch, launch. And I thought, well, that's just, that just comes with the territory. That's just kind of what I need to do. And so as I talked more about him, he opened up his spreadsheets. He was walking me through, his data, and kind of showing me the behind the scenes numbers of everything. And in that moment, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like this is what I want to do. This sounds incredible. I wasn't really sure how I was going to execute it yet, but I knew kind of what the end result wanted to look like. And I think for a lot of people, they're in the same boat, where a lot of the messaging that they're hearing is around, if you've never sold your course before, the best way to do it is to launch. If you want to continue to grow your business, the best thing to do is to keep launching, right? And the reality is, it it's not that launching doesn't work, because I'll be the first to say, like, there is more than one right way to do something. If launching works for you, if you love it, that's awesome. That's great. but it doesn't work for everyone. And when I say it doesn't work, I don't just mean it doesn't convert. I mean, it doesn't work for the life that they want to create for themselves. And I can get into a little bit about kind of the difference between launching and evergreen, because I think sometimes these words are like people hear these words so much, but that it can be kind of confusing. Is that okay if I just kind
Oh,
of?
yeah,
Okay,
100%. And
awesome.
even
Okay.
I'll take it even a step further. Define the word course, right?
Okay. Okay. So I'll define the word course. Let me start by kind of talking about the two different models to sell the course, right? So there's two different models to sell an online course. And an online course is basically, a a method that you are selling. It could be a method, a framework, a formula, some kind of process that you have created that helps people go from point A to point B. And it could be literally anything. So I can give a quick story. I had one client, she was a housekeeper. And so the more houses she cleaned, the more money she would make. So she got really, really fast at cleaning houses. And so over time, she like developed like a method, a system for herself, right? And so what she did is she ended up taking that method and she packaged it into a course, right? And she marketed it to busy parents of young kids. And, who needs a course more than a busy parent of a young child, right? Than like something cleaning a house quickly. And so she was able to do that. And she was very successful. She was making, I think the last time we spoke, I think she was making around 500K a year from selling these courses about cleaning a home, quickly top to bottom. And I think when it comes to selling courses, there's basically two models, right? You've got launching and evergreen. And launching typically requires anywhere between 2 to 3 months of intense list building and content distribution that's leading up to what's called an open cart. And an open cart is a period of time where people can enroll in your program. And that typically lasts 5 to 7 days, right? Then nobody can buy your course again until the next launch, which could be 6 months from now or even a year from now, right? And what most course creators find is that when their launch ends, so does all of the momentum that they've been working so hard to generate for their course. And it's basically, radio silence until they begin the launch cycle all over again. And so this is a very high risk way of selling your course, especially if your course is generating, less than $1 million a year, you don't have a big ads budget, you don't have a big team. And it's my belief that if your course is generating less than $1 million a year, the number one thing that you need to be focused on is how to generate consistent revenue, which is exactly what an evergreen model allows you to do. So an evergreen model allows you to enroll students into your programs on an ongoing basis, not just a couple times a year, which is great because then it puts you in a position where you can really grow over time. You can continue to collect data on what marketing messages are resonating with your audience. You can continue to refine it, and you have more opportunities to practice and get better. And, once you're able to get that consistent revenue going, if later on, if you want to try riskier things like doing a live launch here and there or whatever it is, it's okay because your business at that point can tolerate that risk. You have a big team, you have that foundation of consistent revenue coming in. And so if something goes left, you're still going to be okay. Right. And I think that, it's time that as business owners, we stop trying to replicate what we might see a business who is already generating, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million a year, and start doing the things that we need to do in order to get to that first million. And it wasn't until I made that decision to stop launching and switch to selling my course on with an evergreen model that I was finally able to reach my first $1 million year, which was years ago. But it wasn't, I don't think there's any way that would have happened if I had kept launching. Not because launching doesn't work, but because it didn't work for me and for my family.
Yeah, I hear you so much. I mean, I've got a former client who went on after our work together, which was great because she positioned herself as premium and all the work that I do. And her goal was to do a successful launch. And she
Mhm.
joined a really well-known program and actually had a six-figure launch. And I'm so super proud of her. And she said to me, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And if I knew it, if I had it all to do over, I don't know if I would have done that. And that's off the back
Mhm.
of a first six-figure launch, just
Yeah.
feeling how intensely opposite to the way she wanted to work that experience was. And so many others I know launching unsuccessfully in those early days because they can't get the audience numbers and they
Yeah.
can't get that conversion really flowing. And I hear you so much, Caitlin, because you're speaking to a pain point that is pretty much universal across certainly my listeners are going to be nodding along because we want to work in a way that's compatible with our energy, and we don't want to have to push ourselves to a point where we're overworking and overburning. And your
Yeah.
story of your daughter as well, it's like it's not always these big T traumas that
Right.
create the most
Mm.
impactful shifts and the biggest breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Most of us are mums, and most of us are having those moments. I know for me, I was working on a very intense piece of work a couple of years ago, and I said to my daughters, only 5 more minutes on your iPads, girls. I've got twin 13-year-old daughters. So
Hmm.
same sort of parental stage
Yeah.
that you're in. And you'll get there. She's like, 5 more minutes. And then I realized 2 hours later, they
Yeah.
hadn't made a peep. They were so quiet,
Right.
right. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, head down and realize this isn't in line with my values at all. This isn't
Yeah.
working. I can't do that number of hours. I can't put myself under that kind of pressure. I've got to kind of change up the way I work and switch. And for me, the solution was how to work with what I call premium clients, but they're
Hmm.
not just clients who are willing to pay more, but they're clients who are easier to work with because they
Yeah.
have self-trust, they take responsibility for their work, they're collaborators rather than that kind of codependency model. And I'm also sucking up every single word of what you're saying, Kaylin, because it's a really resonant message. Finding that pipeline, that
Hmm.
evergreen system, which no matter how great your work is, no matter how transformational, no matter what value it creates, if you can't work out how to deliver it in a way
Mm.
that is really expansive and brings in the income and creates the impact, it's a really difficult industry to be in. It's like year after year of kind of struggling to find what is the right way of selling this amazing thing that I can teach, right?
Yes. And I think one of the things that appeals to me the most about Evergreen is it's all about making these tiny improvements over time. So it's not like when you're launching, everything has to be great because you're not going to do it until 6 months later or a year later, right? And I think that one of the things that some people kind of struggle with when they join us sometimes is they're coming to it with a launch mindset where they're like, oh my gosh, like they're putting so much pressure on themselves for everything to be perfect from day one, when you turn on your funnel, and it doesn't have to be. You can just turn it on, and then each week, you're looking at the results and making improvements. And it's such a hard mental shift to make when you've been conditioned so long for like, okay, this is it. This is like the big debut. It's like, there's no debut. Like, you're good.
You could like see me laughing in the background because I'm like, oh my goodness, for like an overthinking perfectionist, many of us
Mm.
ex-corporate ladies out there, it's just like, oh, this is a hard thing to realize. And it took me the longest time to really get into testing my Facebook ads, right? And the reason
Mm.
was that I didn't think they were good enough. The copy wasn't right. I didn't have the right image. I just wasn't ready. And I was working with someone who was just like, just turn them on, turn them on. I don't care anymore. Turn them on. And it's like that ability to test and learn and iterate that I don't think the industry kind of talks about enough. And what you're saying is something that is a real mindset shift for, well, was for me, is still a
Yeah.
mindset shift to me. And so many who kind of want it to be all wrapped up with a fancy bow and working perfectly
Mhm.
from day one, right?
Yeah. And I think with it's like it's just amazing how many things, kind of like what you said, we can tell ourselves that we need to have finished and complete and ready to go and like perfectly aligned before we turn something on. Um, like I've heard, everything from, oh, well, I heard that you have to have launched, 20 times before you put things into, create your first evergreen funnel. Or I heard that I had to, sell my course at a discount before I sold it at the, price that I wanted to sell it for. All of these different things. And what I really want for people to understand is selling with selling evergreen, particularly with an automated evergreen model, is so completely different from selling with a live model. And it's not, one of the big mistakes that I see people make is they kind of they tell themselves, oh, well, I'm just gonna, you know do a bunch of live webinars, and then I'm just going to make the best. I'm going to make that live webinar, I'm going to switch it and like put it into an automated funnel, and then it's just going to be this great evergreen funnel that's just going to like run and run and run. And it doesn't work that way, because what works well live does not work well inside of an automated funnel. They're completely different strategies. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because the buyer's journey inside of a live launch where everyone's getting the exact same information at the exact same time versus an automated model, it's completely different. And so someone asked me the other day, well, should I, like, I heard that I should practice doing some live webinars first. And I was like, why? If you want to get good at making a chocolate cake, why are you telling yourself you have to make 20 apple pies to start? Like, they're totally different. Like, I'm of the mind of, if I want to get good at something, then I start doing the thing that I want to get good at. And I feel badly because a lot of people have tried this thing in the past where they feel like, oh, I'm just going to do it live and then make this, turn a switch, and it's going to be evergreen. And they do that, and they might get like a couple sales initially, but then it peters out, and they make that mean that evergreen doesn't work for them. They make it mean that, oh, well, maybe my audience just won't buy inside of an automated funnel. Maybe they need that like live component or whatever. Like, my audience is unique and different. And the reality is that it's not that your audience won't buy with an evergreen model. It's that you're not using the appropriate content, right? And so, like, one specific example I can give is that if you're doing a live webinar, right? If you're doing a live webinar, it's okay if you are creating content and laying it out for people in a way that really drives curiosity and really makes them want to ask questions, right? So it's not, it's like you're deliberately putting things in there that would confuse someone a little bit, so that then they're like, well, hold on, like, I want clarity on this or whatever, because it's like interactive. That is the kiss of death if you put that in an automated funnel, because in an automated funnel, everything needs to be crystal clear. Because they're not there to interact with you live, right? And so I think that for a lot of people who say, well, I just don't think evergreen, will work for me, a lot of the times it's just because they've been trying to repurpose what worked well live into an evergreen model, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and a lot of people have dabbled with Evergreen as well. I know in
Mhm.
my networks, people, have been onto this. It's not like, oh, we only know launching and Evergreen's something we never considered. People are trying it all the time, but not necessarily with success. And that makes
Mhm.
me really curious because, if Evergreen was the panacea, it's just Evergreen, then everyone would be successful. But clearly it's the way in which Evergreen is implemented. And you use the word
Exactly.
selling on autopilot. So I'd
Yes.
love to hear a little bit more about what that is like, because
Sure.
even words like funnel can
Yeah.
mean something so different to one person than the other. And we hear that word and we make an assumption, oh, that's what Caitlin's talking about. So, I'd
Right.
love that specificity. So everyone's like, now I get why my evergreen's probably not working the way that Caitlin's model is.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about launching versus evergreen, right? Where launching, you have this really short window of open enrollment once or twice a year, and with evergreen, you're bringing new people into your sales cycle every single day. Now within evergreen, you can have live components and you can have automated components, right? For example, some people teach a high ticket program doing sales calls. That's a live component, right? And some people have a successful, evergreen high ticket program or whatever, and they built out their sales team over time in order to scale up and all that sort of thing, and it's going and it's great. What my method is doing is teaching people who want to sell courses. So people are buying, uh they're not buying from a sales call, they're buying from an automated sales presentation, which is one component of the entire funnel, right? And I'll get into more specifics about a funnel in a minute, but I just want to clarify that for people. I'm at the stage in my business right now where I have a big team, I have a big budget. And so I'm able to layer additional things into the sales and marketing process that I'm doing, that there's no way I could have done that when I was working towards my first million, right? So now I can have automated funnels. I can do live webinars on top of it. I can do a little of this. I can do a podcast. I can do that, whatever, right? Like I'm able to do all of these things. Uh, for, and what I want people to really to understand is that within the evergreen model itself, it can be automated or it can be live. The specific method that I teach is automated. And the reason why that is because I'm working with people who don't have a big ads budget, they don't have a big team, and they're looking to leverage their time and bring in that, like, a steady stream of consistent revenue. And later on, if they want to get a little bit riskier, layer in, some additional live things here and there, they do have the option to do it. Now, a funnel is, if the kind of the way, like, I can tell you uh, an analogy. So I compare a sales funnel to getting a toddler ready for bed, right? So if you think about getting your toddler ready for bed, you don't just say, go to bed. And then they're like, all right, then, see you later, right?
The dream
There
scenario.
is, yeah, I wish. And there is a series of steps, right? There is a series of things that need to happen in order to warm up that toddler to the idea of, like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe you have, a bedtime ritual where it's like, okay, first you take a bath, then it's story time, then it's tucking you in, then it's a lullaby, and then the sleep happens. And sometimes when people are selling evergreen, they're doing the go to bed thing or buy now. They like put some, they'll put um, they'll make a post on social media and it'll say, hey, like, click the link in my bio and go buy this course. And the link just takes them to like a sales page, right? There's no warming up. And if you're selling a program, whether it's, $200, $1,000, $2,000, if you're selling something in that price range, you need to kind of warm people up, and you want to be able to capture their information so that you can then follow up with them. So a funnel is basically having some kind of top of funnel content, which is things that you're posting. It could be your podcast that you're putting out there. It could be social media content. It could be a paid ad that you're putting out there, where you're basically educating people about the problems that they are actively experiencing, right? And I think that piece alone is key, because I meet with so many people who are like, but I have a big audience, and like nobody's interested in buying. And the content that they're creating is not tuned into what their ideal customer is actively experiencing. And I think people waste a lot of time in their marketing trying to convince someone that they have a problem, right? They're trying to convince someone like, well, hold on, like this is actually like, you should want this thing because like you have this problem. If someone isn't aware that they have a problem, like you don't need to be creating content to address them at all, you know? And so that top of funnel content is really designed to educate people about their problems. Once you're giving them that top of funnel content, ideally, you're inviting them to then sign up for something in exchange for their email list, right? And the method, or in exchange for their email. And the method that I teach, it's taking them to, they're signing up for a free training, right? And so they're coming, so they come to the middle of funnel content, which is the free training itself, right? They're in that free training, they're getting more educated on what your unique process is, what makes your approach different from what everyone else is teaching. It's building trust, building authority, it's nurturing, it's giving really like powerful insights. And that's the middle of funnel content. Now, if you're sending someone straight to a sales page and saying, hey, go buy my $1,000 course, where's the middle of funnel content? Like you're just sending people right away and they're not ready. They're just not ready. And the sad thing is when they land on your sales page and then they decide, oh, you know what? I'm actually not ready for this. You haven't captured their email. You're not following up with them. It's just like, well, what's happened here, right? And so once after they go to your sales presentation, then they're ready to get into that bottom of funnel content where they can they're either going to the cart or the sales page and they're able to make an informed buying decision. And I think that one of the hard things about selling courses specifically is that a lot of times people know so much about the specific topic that they're teaching about that they almost take for granted the foundational layer that needs to be laid in order for those people to then be able to receive the nitty gritty how to step by step, which of course is inside of the course itself. And so they kind of want to jump to teaching that in their free social media content, on their podcast content, because they're like, but I want to give value. And the reality is that's not valuable to someone who doesn't have the foundational layer. The most valuable thing you can do is really create that layer of understanding of, these are some problems that you're having. Here's why you're experiencing the problems. Here are some things that you've probably tried before. Here's why those things aren't working. All those kinds of things. And you're able to take them through that journey so that if you're doing it right, by the time they enroll in your course, they're going to get better results because they're not going to feel as resistant to learning the things that you're teaching because you've already broken down a lot of those barriers in the sales and marketing process. You've dispelled the myths, you've highlighted the mistakes. And so they're just ready to learn.
Now that's very, very powerful stuff. And I think so many people are going to be going, yeah, I know I haven't done that well enough. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And I'm curious because obviously you made a massive shift and made your first million, as you said, quite a few years ago now. And What is it, do you think, that distinguishes the difference in mindset to getting
Yes,
to that point to make your first million? And to many, it's to make the first six figures. It's just how to break
totally.
those barriers and just get things finally moving in a revenue
Hmm.
state, you know?
I honestly, I think it is two things. So, number one, manage your emotions. And that is one of the most difficult things to do. And it is what keeps people trapped in that like six-figure zone, because the all of the all of the mindset work, everything that you had to do in order to get to that first six figures, it's an entirely different story in order to get to the first million, right? And so much of it is, you know, in our businesses, we can outsource so many things, right? We can be like, oh, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant to build this landing page or to set up this email or to do this or that. And you cannot outsource your ability to manage your emotions. And I am a highly emotional person, and I think that's just fine. I'm a highly creative person. I think that's great. I'm, but when you are working in business, you cannot make flippant decisions based on a feeling or based on, oh, you know what? I just have a feeling this webinar isn't working. And I think that's why I'm not meeting my sales goal. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewrite my entire webinar, right? It's like
Yeah,
you just,
none of us have ever done that before, Caitlin. I don't know where you
right.
got that story
And
from.
it's like you just get stuck in this process where you're moving thoroughly based on like intuition and feelings. And what I have found as a very emotional, sensitive person is that being able to manage my emotions and measure my results, which is the second thing, is incredibly powerful. And it takes so much stress away because I don't have to get emotionally involved in every single decision. I can get emotionally involved in other things going on in my life, but not about the decision on like what to fix inside of my funnel or what needs to be, what needs to be altered. But you're not able to measure your results. You're not able to look at the numbers unless you can effectively manage your emotions. And it's not about pushing everything down or powering through or forcing yourself to like have discipline and like, you know, uh, like move through growing your business in an unfeeling way. But you have to be able to manage it. You have to be able to recognize, oh, I'm having this thought. Wait a minute, just because I'm having this thought that, I didn't sell anything today, therefore I'm never going to sell anything again in my life. It doesn't mean that that's true, right? You can recognize, well, I'm having, just because I have this thought doesn't mean it's not true. Okay, so like let's think about, let's get kind of refocus, right? And get myself out of the weeds. What is it that I'm really looking to create here? Um, and that is one of the questions that I teach my clients to ask themselves is, what is the outcome I'm looking to create? Because when you're working in your business and you know, you're feeling this like emotional attachment to like, what does it mean about me if this works, and what does it mean about me if it doesn't work, and I guess I'm just not cut out for this, like all these different things. And you have to be able to, when that happens, ask yourself, okay, hold on, I'm getting stuck in the weeds. What is the outcome I'm looking to create? And that immediately pulls you out of the weeds and gets you focused on what the big vision is. What do you want things, what's the outcome here? And when you're able to do that, your brain naturally goes into problem solving mode with ease, because we're humans. Once we know what an outcome is, our brains just naturally click into problem solving mode. And you're able to get into problem solving mode, not with the weird nitty gritty detail where you've assigned all kinds of meaning to it over here. You're in problem solving mode to the actual outcome that you're looking to create there. And I ask myself, I mean, multiple times a day, if I'm feeling frustrated with something, I'm like, okay, well, hold on a second. What is the outcome that I'm looking to create here? Okay, so I actually don't care. Like, this one particular thing doesn't need to work. I'm really trying to create this big thing. Now we can figure out, okay, how do I need to, is this something I need to work through? Do I need to work around? Do I need to work under it, over it? Like, how do I get over this, particular challenge?
Yeah, and that mindset stuff resonates so much because I was talking to a client this morning. She specializes, she's a healer. She helps people overcome past traumas so they can
Mm,
succeed better in business. And it was interesting, having this conversation that nothing, or no, not nothing, but very few things are as triggering as running your own personal
oh yeah.
brand business. It's like whatever stuff you've got going on, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's all going to be triggered in some
Yeah.
way. The visibility, the
Oh yeah.
vulnerability, all of it, and the comparisonitis, the mistakes. It's just really, really confronting. And I know from my own experience, and everybody that I've spoken to has experienced those times where they just go, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing what I thought I would do. I'm not hitting the figures I thought. I'm not making the impact I desire. My social channels aren't exploding. My podcast hasn't got off the ground. I mean, the list is absolutely endless. And one thing that, really speaks to that, and I loved so much about your method, is this idea about selling on autopilot, is to take yourself out of the process.
Mm,
It's like if you're going to be confronted by failing sales calls or these
mm.
sorts of things that, or in my case, my first launch had me under the duvet for 2 days while my
Oh
cart
yeah.
was open. I was just like, I
Mhm.
can't look, because I think I'd made it mean so much about me
Yes.
that, if I wasn't seeing sales calls or sales coming through, what does that say about me? And I didn't want to confront that. It was really
Mhm.
difficult and taught me a lot about how I wanted to show up in my business. A lot changed after that, but a lot still comes up. And I think
Mhm.
that ability to take a step back, look at the metrics,
Mhm.
automate as much as possible so you're not
Mhm.
like in it daily and being confronted, is a wonderful way of focusing your overwhelming emotions on things like family, picking your daughter up on time, and doing things
Right.
that are the reasons that we set the whole business up in the first place. So
Mhm.
I'm like, you really have like found a really beautiful seam within this industry that would solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. So that makes me curious, Caitlin, and I want to ask
Yeah.
you. So what's the difference between people who learn your method and succeed? And I know
Uh,
you've got some amazing case studies of people that, making multiple six figures per month in some cases,
mhm.
versus people, and I see this all the time with an expert in the industry who's extremely well known, who many people go through that course with, and come
Mhm.
out and say it didn't work for me. I didn't get there, and I think that's probably true of every course and program out there. But what do you see as, as people come in and are like, yeah, this person's going to really succeed and this person's going to struggle?
it it really is the ability to manage their emotions. That is like the number one key thing. So I can, like, I've worked with so many different people over the years, and people that, they're initially starting out where uh, they're selling their course, they have a full-time job, they're selling their course like on the side. So they still have their full-time job, they're working on building their business. Maybe they're making $50,000 a year from selling their course, something like that. I've seen these people grow from $50,000 a year to their first $1 million a year, maybe 2, 3 years from then, to multi-million dollars a year. And I can tell right away who's going to do well and who's not. Now, what I really want to make clear is that you can choose to do well at any given moment, because if you're someone right now who's listening is like, man, well, I am never going to be able to grow a business because I can't manage my emotions. Like, I just cannot, right? What I want to tell you is that, like anything else, being able to manage your emotions is a skill, right? And it's different for everyone. You mentioned past traumas. Maybe being able to manage your emotions effectively means getting like some kind of therapy, whether that's like traditional therapy, hypnotherapy, whatever. Maybe it's maybe it's getting a physical with your doctor and starting to realize, oh my gosh, I need more, like to start taking a vitamin D supplement, and that's really going to boost my energy. Maybe it's something hormonal that's going on. Like there's so many, when it comes to being taking accountability for managing your emotions, it's really taking accountability for it. So it's not that you can't just say, well, I guess I'm just like I'm just not able to do that, right? And the kind of model that I go over all with all of my clients once we start working together is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where what that basically is measuring is competence and confidence, right? So confidence is when you first join a program, when you're first learning a method, your confidence is at an all-time high. Now your competence is at an all-time low because you haven't learned the thing that you're gonna do yet, but you are riding high. You're in that honeymoon. You're like, oh, I know how this is gonna go. Yeah, it's gonna be a challenge, but it's gonna be great. Like, da 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 da. I saw these awesome testimonials. I saw this. I saw that. They're so excited, right? What happens is as you move along the journey, as you become more competent, your confidence dips because you're starting to realize, well, hold on a minute. There's a little bit more to this than I thought. And that is normal. It doesn't mean the program doesn't work. It doesn't mean you need to go off and try something new. It means that you are becoming aware of where your skill gaps are. You're becoming aware of the other things that need to be learned. And that's part of learning the new thing. It doesn't mean that you can't learn those skills. It doesn't mean that you can't bridge those gaps, but the feeling of realizing, wait a minute, there's more to this. For some people, that can be very triggering, again, based on how they grew up, all those different things, right? And the goal is I got good news and bad news. The bad news is that once you reach that point where you're like, well, hold on, I think there's a little bit more to this. As you become more competent, the more you learn, your confidence actually takes another plummet, right? And that's what I kind of call the valley of despair. And that's when you're at a point where it's almost like you're up against this invisible wall and you're telling yourself, oh my gosh, like, I don't understand. This is so different, da, da, da. You're kind of in that place where you're like, well, hold on. I just I don't understand now. And therefore that means that I will never understand, you're just kind of in this like invisible wall. That invisible wall is where so many people give up. And so many people say, oh, I'm trying to learn this new thing. But I just like, da, 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 I want to feel good again. I want to feel good. And so then they say, oh, you know what? I'm going to join a new program. I'm going to learn a new method. I'm going to do this like wildly different thing. I'm going to start selling low ticket. I'm going to start selling high ticket. I'm going to write a book, like whatever. And so, and they do that. And again, initially, when they start that new thing, then they're at the high again. And they're like, oh, this is going to be great. Like I'm in that honeymoon. This was the right move. Da, da, da. And then the same thing happens. And I talk to people all the time in my DMs who are like, well, how do I know this is going to work for me? How do I know, I've tried so many courses before and they haven't worked and da, da, da. And I tell them all the time, this is not done for you. I'm not doing something for you. I can't tell you what's going to work or not work because you're the person that is actually doing everything, right? I'm not there like a puppet master, like making you do the things. And the reality is once you come up against that invisible wall, the good news is that if you're able to stay the course, to ask for help when you need it, right? To not just be like, oh, I have a question. That means I don't understand anything. And I'm just never going to ask this question, whatever. Ask the question, get the support that you need. When you're able to move through it, then you get to a point where your competence is continuing to increase, and then your confidence begins to increase. And you're like, you know what? Okay, I don't have everything figured out yet, but I kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. I kind of see this starting to take shape, right? And then you reach that final stage where you're like, okay, whoa, like I don't know everything in the world, but I feel like I feel like I have a good handle on this. My confidence is high, my competence is high. And then here's the thing, if you're doing it right, you're going to learn the next thing that's going to take you to the next level in your business, and you're going to go through the cycle, again. But you have to stay the course, and you can't let those thoughts that you're having that are saying, oh, this is never going to work or whatever. You can't make that, you can't make that mean that it's actually never going to work. You have to stay connected, and you have to continue to ask questions and work through it, right? When you're growing a business, throwing your hands in the air and saying, well, I just don't get it, it doesn't, that's a luxury that you just don't have. Like
I appreciate your straight talking, because I think a lot of this industry, we're kind of stuck between two rocks and hard places. You get the people who are all about productivity and working yourself to the bone. It's a lot of machismo kind of
yeah.
bro marketing stuff, and it's like we know if that's not for us pretty fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I also work within an area of very gentle, soulful people who are doing businesses just because they love the work. They
Yeah.
love the work. But we also need financial overflow. We need our business to be successful. We need our business to be successful to make an impact. So
Mm-hmm.
either way, we want that success. And I realized, like, listening to you, it's a lot like something that has come up and I speak to my clients in my world about, which is we talk about alignment. And sometimes when we
Mm.
say, it's out of alignment, means this doesn't feel good. I'm not excited. I'm not motivated. It's making me feel a bit icky in some cases. And so we draw away from it. And that can be
Mm-hmm.
something like a simple task. And many of the things that I think
Yeah.
you're alluding to, like, yeah, you're going to need to show up. Yes, you're going to need
Yeah.
to record that training. Yes, you're going to need to
Yeah.
do all of these steps and pieces to have the full, complete piece that's going to be successful. And I realized that we can often feel out of alignment with any element within that. I don't want to show up. I don't want to be visible. I don't want to work those extra hours this week and so on, and then think I'm out of alignment. And I realized that actually a true alignment is our goal, the bigger picture, the
Yes.
thing we actually want. And you talked to that point too, and you were
Mm-hmm.
like, what is it I'm actually trying to achieve? And if our alignment is to create a great impact and have beautiful income and overflow and more time with our family and the things that I think are universally desired, certainly within the communities that you and I exist, then we've got to see that big picture, that universal alignment, and sometimes do the uncomfortable things along the way. And that doesn't mean you're out of alignment because you didn't want to
Yeah.
do it. It means that we're having to do difficult things because we're in alignment with our bigger vision, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Alignment doesn't equal comfort. If you're truly in alignment, you're going to be in discomfort, not pain and suffering, but you're going to be in discomfort a lot of the time because you're shedding your skin, you're stepping into a new version, you're doing the things that need to be done, exactly like you said, to reach that particular goal,
You're
right?
growing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's like
That growth.
personal growth.
Growth is
That's what we're doing.
uncomfortable, right?
Oh my gosh, so true. I could talk about this for hours. And
Yeah.
sadly, I'm gonna have to like bring this to a close, but not before I ask you, Caitlin. If somebody is obviously really inspired by your method and things you've shared today, and they want to take a piece of inspired action, what's something I can do to be ready to move towards it? What would you recommend?
I think asking yourself that question, what is the outcome I'm looking to create? Put all the things aside of like what you've been taught that your business should look like. Oh, you have to have a $10 million business. You have to have a big team. You have to have all these different, forget about all of that. What is the outcome that you're really looking to create, 3 years from now? That is going to be one of the most important things that you can do. It's going to be kind of that lighthouse that you can reconnect with and get inspired to work towards in those times of discomfort, but really getting crystal clear on the outcome you're looking to create.
Amazing. And if people want to learn more about your work and find you
Yeah.
online, where was the best place to do that?
Yes, so I do have a free masterclass. It's called How to Generate Launch Sized Revenue Without Launching. And there should be a link somewhere to that around this podcast. It's caitlinbacher.com/masterclass.
And we will have that link in the show notes if anybody wants to jump straight in there. Caitlin, just say thank you so much for joining us on Goals with Soul today. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much.
My thanks again to Caitlin. And please do, if you have been inspired by what she shared, do drop into the links in the show notes and go and visit her website and find out more about what she teaches. If specifically, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you would like help and support with your messaging and offers, please do reach out to me. I'm going to put a link for booking a free, no obligation messaging and client alignment call in the show notes. And please do just jump on a call with me. I would love to meet you. Love to hear more about your business. And so for now, have an inspired action week. Take care. Bye now.